back at the high school I graduated from. This is the classroom I took my senior math class in. Actually, I had the same teacher for both junior and senior math classes. And he was an amazing teacher, an incredibly nice guy. His name was Mr. Morgan. His first name was Judge, and so we often called him the Judge or Judge. And I remember very distinctly talking to him. You see, Mr. Morgan had left teaching after teaching for just a couple years before I ever came here. And Mr. Morgan went to seminary. He actually went to Southeastern Seminary at Wake Forest University. And while he was there, he felt very called by God into the ministry, but he also felt very called back to the school system. So upon finishing his divinity degree, he left seminary and came right back here to teach again. He taught my mom, he taught my aunts and my uncles, and years later, at the end of his career, he was teaching me. And as we talked about earlier, I had this amazing moment as a senior where Jesus became someone that I wasn't just going to be with when I died, but he became someone that I was going to live for while I was alive. And Mr. Morgan knew that this was happening in my life, and it was right towards the end of the year, and he called me forward one day. He said, "Kevin, I want to talk to you about living for Jesus." He said, "I know that you're going to hear a lot of people say a lot of different things, and right over here, he said these words. He said, I want you from this moment on to judge everything that you hear against the Scriptures. I want the Scriptures to be the one thing that informs for you what it means to follow Jesus." He said, "You're going to hear people say all kinds of things about what it means to follow Jesus, but always go back and understand the Scriptures and judge what they're saying against them." And that was a small little moment. It really was incoincidental. I mean, it was just inconsequential. I could have walked out of that class that day without having that moment, and the day would have been very much the same. But somehow God used that interaction to start building something in me. And over the next year, I cultivated a love for the Bible, and I went on to major in Bible at college. When I left here and went to Lee University and studied. And over the years, God has constantly brought me back to that statement and that moment. And it's amazing because so many of us are put in places like Mr. Morgan. We're put in places where we have this amazing gift and this amazing hope, and there are people who are sitting desks away that need what we have. And it seems so simple to us. But in the long run, those intersections of our lives become very meaningful for them. As we wrap up this series, I want to remind you that God has placed every one of you in a very special place. And I want you to realize that, like Mr. Morgan saw himself coming back to school and having a ministry, but the ministry wasn't in a church, and he wasn't a vocational minister. His ministry was a teacher, where for years upon years he loved students. And I want you to see that your place and the people that are desks down from you are people that God has given you the opportunity to minister to.